Welcome to this video. This is a video that's dedicated to God and only God, for it is God's grace that I sit here with you today, and I pray that at some point, somewhere, something I say will touch your heart that will bring you closer to God and give you encouragement. There is a song which is "Count your many blessings, name them one by one," and we should remember to do just that. I was born on the wrong side of the tracks under a curse. And for those of you out there who are struggling with drugs, alcohol, even though I didn't struggle with those two addictions, I had other struggles that I had to walk through. But I used to lay in bed, and I can remember counting on my fingers the days of the week and having Sabbath never, ever turn up as Sunday. It was always seventh because Sunday is the first day of the week. And so even though I did not know God as a child, and even though I did not have a religious background as a child, I still saw things and questioned things. I used to lay in Florida on the riverbank and look up at the sky and sunset and see the golden clouds and think that must be the bottom of heaven, and thinking those were cobblestones. So the challenges of life are there. They're not going to leave us, but God has promised that He will walk through those challenges with us. He won't leave us, ever. And He led in my life in so many ways that this tape could never encompass all of His wonderful blessings and the way He has led me. He led me to Southern College, where I graduated. He led me to teach for many years. And recently, He has just dumped a truckload of blessings on me. My son died in October of 2019, and my life changed radically once again. And I had been working down on the Navajo reservation with a private denominational school down there, Seventh-day Adventist, non-conference run, but nonetheless Seventh-day Adventist. And when Willis died, I had a crossroads. Do I stay here on the Navajo reservation, or do I do something else with my life, God? And so I got to the crossroads outside Farmington, and I turned my pickup and horse trailer and horses, which have been always a part of my life ever since 1971 when I graduated Southern, and used them in the classroom to God's honor and glory. God has used those horses to bring about a feeling of confidence in people. And no matter how many things life throws at you, know there is a God, and He loves you, and that He will carry you through. I made a decision to come to Georgia. I am an adventuresome soul because I left Southern and went to Wyoming and taught and was there 55 years before I came back to the South. And God took me through so many miracles, so many obstacles that blocked my way. I have met people, I had students whose parents were alcoholics and drugs. I've taught juvenile delinquents for 11 years that were court appointed. And I've seen humanity from its worst to its best. Even though I was born on the wrong side of the tracks, God brought me across those tracks into a different life. And so I've seen the good side of life, and I've seen the bad side. And I've watched my students as they have come from backgrounds that were just horrendous, and they found hope and belief in themselves, and hopefully were touched, even though they didn't jump up and down and with joy in the classroom because it was public school. I hope that it made such an impression on their life that they would raise their children in standards with the Bible. I've had the opportunity to work with kids of all backgrounds, work with adults of all backgrounds, people who were on the border of suicide, who had given up on life, and God pulled them from the brink. I have had that opportunity to serve on the suicide team when I was working on my master's at the University of Wyoming. I can't say enough how God will bless you. You can't buy God with tithe, but you can sure celebrate His goodness by giving back to Him the part of what He has given to you. And I just hold out to you a hope that Jesus is coming really soon and that we need to be ready for Him. He brought me here. There were so many obstacles. I mean, it would take me all day to tell the obstacles that stood in the way. And God, in a mighty way, overcame every one of those obstacles. I had my horses and my pickup and coronavirus, and I couldn't stop. So I had the privilege of driving through straight 30 hours from Farmington to South Georgia with my service dog and the 2 horses, and we couldn't stop because everything was closed fairground-wise. And the horses were in the trailer and they had to be taken care of, and they had to get out of that trailer, so it meant driving straight through. And God saw me straight through. He kept me from being in 2 or 3 wrecks where other people, especially semi-drivers, cut me off. And if God had not grabbed that steering wheel, or an angel had not grabbed that steering wheel, we would have been in a wreck. And He sold my property, even though it was a horrendous affair. The realtor, she went through an awful lot, and so did I, in the process of selling my property in Wyoming to come to the South. And then when I got here, the property that I bought sight unseen, well, I was told was fenced on 3 sides. I discovered it wasn't. And so the Valdosta Church came to the rescue, and praise be to God to them for having done so, because now the horses have an enclosure that allows them to be able to be with me. And they're 3rd and 4th generation. There won't be any more, because we're all looking for the coming of Jesus. And I tell you, if you're struggling, whether it be financial, God will walk through you with it. He's walked through me. I was looking at a horrendous tax bill for 2019 because of moving and transition and different things that transpired. And wow, God enabled the individual who did my taxes to find loopholes that they hadn't seen in a few years, because they had not needed to use them in a few years, that were legal. Everything was done legally, but that horrendous tax bill got reduced down to the point where I have a refund coming from the federal government. God will go through your finances with you. It can look pretty dark. I mean, there was a time in my life when I graduated Southern that I had no money whatsoever to buy food. And I actually bought a 50-pound bag of dry dog food, thinking, well, this is mostly grains, so I can eat this. But you know, God opened a door, and I got a job as a waitress. And as I worked that summer job, I found a teaching position and taught in Cohutta, Georgia. Yay! And I had wonderful students and wonderful parents. And God led in that. God led when I was a teenager, and I was a runaway, and I watched a woman die from alcohol. And I looked down in her casket and I said, God, I don't know you, but I know I don't want my life to end up this way. And so I turned myself into the law enforcement, got flown back to Jacksonville in handcuffs, but God made a way. I didn't even know Him, and He made a way. For those of you who are struggling and holding on by your fingernails, the edges of your fingernails, wow, just hang in there a little longer and turn to God. because He will walk through it with you. He really and truly will. I was introduced to the Adventist faith through an aunt and uncle, and many, many interventions God did in my life as I grew into womanhood and went west and married and had a son, gave birth to a son, and He walked me through my husband's death. For those of you who have faced death recently, my heart goes out to you. It's no fun to have a loved one die. And when my husband was face down in the snow, and I was rolled him over and was doing CPR on him, Jesus was there. So when you've had to lay your loved ones to sleep, know that they're just asleep, and that Jesus will come, and the righteous in Jesus will be resurrected, and they'll go home to heaven, where there will be no disease that will take lives ever again. So if this sounds emotional, yeah, because God made us with emotions. He didn't make us to be stoic. One of the things that I had with my Navajo students was the boys were macho men. They were above crying. And of course, girls are girls. I don't care if they're Navajo or whatever, they will cry. And but I would see every once in a great while a certain macho young man who there were tears, and he would shed them with my service dog. My service dog became an unofficial therapy dog. And one of my 12th graders, Navajo, preached a sermon in the church Sabbath, and we were able to get him into Walla Walla University. Praise the Lord. He came from a family where his dad was a veteran, but alcohol had latched on to him. And so whenever something latches onto you, don't give up. Don't give up. Turn to God. It's not a cliche. It's not something to say just to make you feel good. It's a reality. I'm here now because there is a God, and because He doesn't always solve all my problems. I've got a pretty big one I'm dealing with right at the moment, and I don't know how it's going to play out, but I know He's in charge, and whatever the end result is, I know that He has my welfare at heart. So this is just a little snowflake or two of my life experiences. I don't want to overwhelm anybody. I just want to say that even when you have good times, it's good to seek God, because, wow, God likes to be there in the springtime when the birds are singing and the flowers are blooming. He wants you to have good times, and He's not against people having resources and a beautiful home. And like I said, I've seen both sides of life. I've gone from being cursed on the wrong side of the tracks to, at one point at Southern, living in a pretty nice house. And so God cares for all of His children, rich, poor, whatever they are. God loves each and every one of them. And He'll never turn His back on rich or poor or sick or well. He is there to wrap His arms around you and to bring you through whatever you're having to go through. And we have so much to celebrate in Him, to remember. So I challenge you to remember, count your blessings, like the old song says, and name them one by one. Because in remembering how God has led us in the past, it gives us the strength to trust Him in the future. May God bless you.